Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Gary Jenkins on the session. And as you know in advance, the topic is, are you burning out the daylight? And Gary Jenkins is an ex-minister and was a cowboy. But let him introduce himself. You can start rolling.
Thank you. Let me just begin. My name is Gary. I was born in Canada. I was raised in the United States. At age 8, I left home. I was dyslexic, and they didn't know how to treat that. They just thought I was retarded. So my parents sent me to a ranch, and I became a cowboy at age 8. I left school at 14. I got a teacher who could teach dyslexics. I did basically 12 years of education in 2. I went into the U.S. Army at 17. At 18, I was fighting in Southeast Asia. At 19, I just wrote to a bunch of churches and said I wanted to be a minister. One picked me, said, come, if you feel called, you're a minister. I spent 18 months as a minister. I earned the title of Reverend. I still am technically a reverend today. I've never been to Frog, so I still have the title. I left the ministry, became a police officer. After I was a police officer for a while, I realized that really wasn't a calling. That's like being an overglorified secretary with a gun. It was really interesting to me. I went back into the military, and this time I worked in mental health. And I really like that. I kind of found my niche. I left the military when I was injured, and I went off to school, and I worked my way through my bachelor's, master's, eventually earning a doctorate. And I worked as a psychologist for about 34 years, and came to the UK, taught people how to do what I had done in North America, and then left psychology in total pretty much and started working for business, arbitrating between parties that were in a dispute and trying to keep them out of court settings. And that was very interesting work until I ended up retiring, and then I became a podcaster. So ta-da, that's me. So let me kind of tell you about this burning up daylight thing. When I was 8 years old, and my very first night on the ranch was a sleepless night. But I was told before I went to bed by the ranch foreman that our day started at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I kind of thought, wow, that's really quite early. I didn't even know there was a 3 a.m. And he came walking into the bunkhouse. He turned on all the lights, and the first thing out of his mouth is, "You're burning up daylight." So all the ranch hands were getting out of bed, moving around quickly. And he took me out to the stable where we had my horse. He introduced me to my horse for the first time. He asked me, what did I know about saddling and bridling a horse? I didn't. He asked me if I ever rode a horse. And I kind of sort of lied, because when I was a kid, I one time was at the state fair, and they had a little pony ride that you could go around a circle thing. And I did that. So I told him I had ridden a horse before. he kind of thought I had mastery of a horse. Well, I did over time gain mastery of a horse in about 3 weeks. But the horse was a really smart horse, and the horse knew I didn't know anything. It basically taught me everything. But you know, at 3 a.m. in the morning, the sun isn't even coming up until 4:30, where the ranch was. So for 90 minutes, I worked pretty much in the dark before the sun came up. And we were burning up daylight because daylight was when you were supposed to be working. So you had to get everything set up to go out to work. You had to eat your breakfast. You had to get on your horse and ride, because you had to get out to where you were going to start working. And about the point you actually got out there, there would be enough light, even though the sun hadn't risen yet, there would just be enough light that you could start working and doing your job. And we would work until the sun set. And in the summertime, the sun didn't set till about 9 o'clock at night. And so then you'd be riding home. So you only really get about 5 hours sleep each night. And you would work very hard in 54 degree in the shade. And there was no shade.
Wow.
Daylight with very few clouds. And so that was life. So when people say, oh, I wish I was a cowboy, like, hell you do. You have no idea what you're doing. So yeah, that's kind of like how to be a cowboy and burning up daylight. And when I went into the military.
Oh, yes. You told me about this, about the military.
When I went into the military, you arrive like in a place called reception. So you're not in a training unit yet, but in this time period, you're getting uniforms, getting your hair cut right. You're doing all kinds of things that you have to do so that you'd be ready to go off to your first unit to be trained how to be a soldier. But on the very first morning, all of a sudden, the lights just came on and all these drill sergeants came walking in there, get up, get up, get out of bed. And if they got to your bunk and you were not out of bed or in the process of being very much out of your bed, they would just grab your mattress and flip you off onto the floor. Now, if you were on the lower bunks, you had less of a distance to fall, but the guy on the top bunks, when they went down, they fell close to about 2 meters to hit
what
the ground.
What a rude awakening.
And, yeah, very rude awakening. And they would take garbage cans, because every barracks had a garbage can on each side of the entrance to the area. So you could throw your trash in or coming or going into these things. And of course, they were always empty and spotless first thing in the morning. And they would just pick up those trash cans and they would start banging them with like these sticks and get up. Terrible racket. But having been a cowboy, I knew how to get out of bed immediately and, right away, and to look busy, and try to get things organized and going, because they were telling you to get up, make your bed, get dressed, and report downstairs in 10 minutes. So it was really a shock to a lot of people's systems. It wasn't to mine so much. But the thing is, the military taught me to get up early. When I was in basic training, I was always awake and doing cleaning something by 3 a.m. every morning with the rest of my unit, even though we knew the drill instructors would come in at 4:30, 4:35, screaming at everybody to get out of the bunks. Of course, we'd all be out, the bunks would be made, we'd all be in uniform, dressed and ready to go. And they would tell us to get downstairs into formation. And then we would begin with marching to some location where we were going to do some physical exercise, or we would go into an early morning training class of some kind. And then they'd march us off and have breakfast sometime about 7:30 in the morning. But that was my life. And I learned to be a member of what I call the 5 a.m. club my entire life. Always up, because it's quiet and you can get a lot of stuff done. Your brain is clear. And for me, that made most of the difference in my life.
Amazing. I'm just thinking about the community and what they would be thinking about, the 5 a.m. start, because in the community, we've got a variety of people. We've got professionals, we've got housewives, we've got people who are starting a business and having to leave a 9-to-5 job. They probably trying to find some kind of balance or stability on how they can run the business, because there's no control on how it is to be an entrepreneur and to start up something. So motivation and this 5 a.m. start, now that you don't have a boss and now you are the boss. So like from your experience, how many years have you been doing this 5 a.m. start? And do you think, have you ever had a stage of burnout with the 5 a.m. start?
I'll tell you, let me answer that last question first,
Okay.
because I have been doing it so long now. I cannot sleep in. 5 a.m. I wake up. Now, it takes discipline even still to just get up and get going, because I could just lay there. I could tell myself, oh, you're tired now. Well, actually, I am retired, but I am a podcaster, and there are things that I would like to get done. Here's the thing. I had 6 children. So getting up at 5 a.m. usually meant they were still asleep, the wife was still asleep, and I could get things done, whether it was I had to study, I had to write reports, whether there were letters for me to take care of, emails, etc. And I could get done between 5 and 6:30 when the family tend to have to get up. In that 90-minute period, I could get more done than I could in a 4-hour period in the rest of the day. Because the rest of the day, there's phone calls, there's people who want to have conversations, there's a crisis somewhere. I mean, when you got 6 kids, somebody has spilled something, somebody's having an argument with somebody else. The little ones come up to you and say, my diaper doesn't smell good. So you have to take care of what they need taken care of at the moment. Dad, I'm hungry. Can I have water? Whatever it is, it's full of interruptions. But that 90-minute period was golden. And there were times, especially when I was in school, when I was in my master's program at my graduate school, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning just so that I could have a 2-hour period to just get pure study and things done. I will admit to you that there were many times when I would come home from like working late, maybe having a very late night studying and preparing for a test the next morning. And I wouldn't get to bed until 2, 3 in the morning. And I was still up at 5 because the discipline was important. When you're an entrepreneur, you're responsible for everything. And the one thing you are most responsible for is yourself, your behavior, your actions, your talents. I am a huge advocate of the law of attraction. The law of attraction has a precursor, and that is the law of gratitude. So when I'm up at 5 a.m. in the process of getting myself ready, like, get dressed, brush your teeth, wash your face, that kind of thing, I'm always telling myself what I am grateful for so that I can attract more of it. And in the law of attraction, by taking specific actions and disciplines and honing to them, the universe becomes aware of me and what I'm doing and what direction I'm going and where my focus is. Because where your focus is where your energy is going to flow. And as your energy flows out in that direction, the universe basically begins manufacturing for you, so that when you believe it, you will see it. It's not a statement like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. No, you will believe it and then you will see it, is how this law of attraction thing kind of works.
Going back to burning up the daylight, I'm sorry to cut you off there, because you said something very crucial in the law of attraction. Would you think that by making the effort to get up early in the morning, 5:30 a.m. start, or let's just say to push yourself a little bit more without burning yourself out.
Mhm.
It's almost as if the universe is noticing the efforts you are making and bringing forward what you want to manifest, because
Right.
the work is going in.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is the law of manifestation, the law of attraction requires that you put massive effort forward. Now, that massive effort is not getting out on a tractor and plowing the field like a farmer has to do. Because as an entrepreneur, a lot of your work is mental, a lot of your work is creative, a lot of your work is energetic in trying to prepare yourself to be a help to somebody else. You know, especially if you're like doing coaching or you're like a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. You have to get yourself disciplined and prepared for what is going on in the day. Taking care of those emails, because if you fall behind on the emails, you're in trouble. You don't know what happened. Getting all your voice messages, you know, and sorting out how you're going to triage through all of that for the day. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you know the poem about For the Want of a Nail.
No, I
You
don't.
know, yeah.
Do you know it?
I don't remember, but it goes something like this: for the want of a nail, a horseshoe was lost. For the want of a nail and a horseshoe, the rider was late. For the want of a nail, a horseshoe, and the rider being late, the army did not get the message. For the want of a nail, a horseshoe, the rider being late and not getting the message, the kingdom was lost. You know, and so you've got to pay attention to the little details, because if you pay attention to them, the big things will take care of themselves usually. And where people go wrong, they're trying to take care of the big stuff, and the little stuff is tripping them up. How did that not get taken care of? Why isn't that there? And you're the entrepreneur. You are the one who's responsible. You're head of email reading. You're the head of, phone answering. You're the head of messaging. You're the head of creativity, advertising, getting the product out, finding the suppliers, etc. And this work is work that, for me, I can't get interrupted in. So if I can place my day when everybody's asleep in the household, and I know I'm not going to be interrupted, I can get really important work done quickly, thoroughly, efficiently. If it's emails and I've responded to the emails and things, it's the first thing they're going to see in the morning. My response has come to them. It came, and it's amazing in business when people say, "My God, you were up early this morning." Yeah, the email you sent me said 5:15. Oh wow, I don't even get out of bed until 6:30. But thank you very much. There now, that's a compliment to you, and it makes you feel better. But what it told them is, you guys are really important. And I got to you this morning early. They don't know what time I get out of bed, but they know that that email was waiting for them when they got into the office. It wasn't one of these things that came in at noon. It was their first thing for them. Now they could sort through it and they could read it at noon, but even if they read it at noon, they could see what time I sent it. And they were always impressed. Nobody ever said, you overachiever, I really hate you, I don't want business with you. Usually they just said, wow, you're really on the ball.
Hey, talking about overachieving, right? There's something that I faced when I was the very early go-getter, early bird catch the worm person. I was always 20 minutes early at my job. And everyone was, and also making the most sales. I hit the most sales on the platform. And I think what people don't see is, you wake up early. At that time, I didn't even really bother about the alarm clock because I was, at that times in our lives, we never had phones. You just know automatically you have to wake up at this time. But what I felt is being an overachiever is not liked as much. It kind of bogs you down if you're around the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is,
not even overachiever, just say ambitious.
Yeah. Well, the thing about achievement in general is people don't like other people who are doing demonstrably more than they are doing. Because if you're doing more, then somebody may have an expectation that I have to do more. And so it's the crabs in the bucket syndrome, in my opinion. The person who's achieving, the person who's putting out the performance, whatever else, the crabs in the bucket, as that one tries to rise, they reach up to pull it back down because they want it to be in the norm, And you as an entrepreneur cannot be in the norm. You have to be on the cutting edge. You have to be the person who knows what's happening all around. And to me, it's not like being an overachiever. It's you're goal directed. You know where you're going and why you're going there. And that's what gets your juices flowing. Because when you have a clear vision of what it is that you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, you begin to get to a point in very rapid succession where you feel bad if today you didn't move any closer to that goal. So that's not overachieving. That is you just being a better version of you today than you were yesterday. And by having a series of days in which you become better at what you do and being better as a human being, you move closer and closer to that point where your vibrational levels begin to increase, that you are attracting the things that you're asking the universe to bring into your life. And it begins to happen. I want to say, one of the things that I wanted to share with this group, and I don't know why it's hit me right now. One time I was walking down the street with a couple of friends, and one guy looked at a car that was, I think it was a Rolls Royce. And he said, man, I'd love to have one of those. That guy is so lucky. But I bet you he's a real nasty, mean piece of work. And I said, well, why would you say that? And he said, well, because, he's driving that car and there's very few of them that are around. And, he's just got to be arrogant, nasty. He's probably stolen from somebody else to get to where he's at. And I said, why can't you just cheer the guy on? Why can't you say, man, look at him. If he can have a Rolls Royce, so can I. I just have to figure out how to get there. You don't have to steal from somebody. You don't have to cheat at business. You just have to put your energy forward and say, that is what you want. And you really got to want it. I mean, it's got to be like your soul's sincere desire. And I'm telling you, your dream is important. And whatever your dream is, that's your dream. It's not anybody else's, it's yours. And I'm going to go with the car thing again. I had a guy that his thing was he wanted to have a Magnum red Ferrari, like Magnum PI drove. He wanted that kind of Ferrari. And, he talked about it all day long. He had pictures of it everywhere, and that was his dream. And I would talk with him and chat with him and, help him build up that dream and get that energy and that vibration going so that he can attract that thing. And then I had another man. His dream was he had 8 kids, and he wanted to have a vehicle that he could put the whole family in and go someplace. And what they did was they had like 2 cars. His wife drove one, he drove one. They put the kids in and they would go places. And he just wanted the whole family together in a car. And Dodge came out with a van that you could take a family in. His family would fit in the van. It was built for like 9 passengers. And so he just said, I want one. I want one. And he had this plan with his wife that they would save, so much of their money. And I said, that's a good plan, but there might be a better one. Let's try to get a way that you can make extra money on the side and throw that into the pot, and we can maybe move that timeline down. And he got into it. He really started working. He started planning. He started plotting. And the day came when he got that van. And I took this other guy that wanted a Magnum Red Ferrari down, and I'm telling this guy about how wonderful. And he's showing me the features of the van and how the whole family could sit in it and how they can go on, to the restaurant together in the same car, or they could go to the lake together in the same car. And I'm telling him, man, that's really wonderful. That's really great. I'm so happy for you. Boom, boom, boom. And we're walking away, and I get into my car, and this other guy sitting there says, man, I couldn't get excited about that. And I said, that's okay, but that was his dream. It's not your dream.
Yeah.
Your dream is that Magnum Red Ferrari. And I'll tell you, a year and a half later, he bought himself not that Magnum Red Ferrari. He decided to buy himself a Maserati because it was only 42 inches tall, and he really thought that was sexy. I don't care. I couldn't stand having Ferrari or a Maserati, but for him, it was his dream. So what did I do? I just said, cheered him on. This is great, man. This car, show me this. Show me how this, how do you shift it? Because
Awesome.
the Maserati does not shift like a normal car, So he showed me how you shift the Maserati. He showed me, the little place that you could put in a tiny suitcase, in the car,
I'm just worried about the time, but I have a question for,
Sure.
just in case the community, I know our audience in the community, for the housewives and the husbands who've lost their jobs in COVID,
Yes.
For them and their families, how would you say is different from, I know you say burning up the daylight, think about the detail. The answer is in the detail. And, keeping a marriage together, keeping a family together, doing the work together.
Okay.
Again,
Well,
burning up the daylight, how do you balance that? Because, you've got 2 different personalities, 2 different individuals.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's easier if you're single. Let's just put it there. You may not have a support system there, but you don't have a distraction system either. And so you can put your energy out and you could do all that you want to do and move forward. But where you have a couple, a partnership that is involved, and this could also not only be like man and wife, but this could just be, 2 sisters or 2 brothers that are trying to work together, or cousins who are trying to do something together. You always increase the chance for conflict, because if everybody thought exactly as you did in your partnership, you don't need one of you. You do need to have somebody that checks and balances with you along the way. So let's keep that open and honest and just say that right up front. The second part that you have to say, that I say, is burning up the daylight. Even if your partner can't do it, you can get up early in the morning when everybody's dead and you can get a lot of work done. If you're a mom and you're a single parent, kids are sleeping. You figure out what time you're going to get up and you go do what you need to do for business. I know a lot of people say, well, the kids all go to school. Well, that's great. They go to school, but you can't guarantee that that's your time, because kids get sick, kids get sent home, etc. We had people who were promised their job was safe. And when COVID broke out, and the next thing they know, they're being laid off, they're being terminated, they're being whatever. And of course, remember, for most people, they were told this is just to cut down the curve for 2 weeks, maybe possibly 3. And it ended up being, for many people, 2 years of no work, 2 years of denial. It is incumbent on you to become disciplined, to say, this is what I'm carving out when I know I won't be disturbed. And this is how I am going to address my day from here on out during the day. Because sometimes you have to train your family when that door is closed for 45 minutes every hour. I will open it up for 15 and we can interact, but I need to have my time. You have to be disciplined. The children, the family, the husband, they will all learn in time to respect the door being closed, because you respect opening the door for the 15 minutes of interaction. And you have to make those kind of agreements. Now there are people who, in a partnership, who often sabotage the partnership because they think somebody is doing better or not doing enough, or is not contributing what they think they should be contributing. And that all boils down to the C word: communication. You've got to talk honestly and openly. Speak about your expectations, and don't get angry if somebody says, but that isn't what I wanted. What I would say is that most people who start off in a partnership, now let's just look at Steve Jobs, started Apple Computer. He was with a guy named Wozniak. Wozniak was a real genius, but there was a third guy in the mix who was building these things. And at the end of their first summer, he said he didn't want to be in Apple anymore. And he settled for a stereo and some cash because he wanted to go to university. He said that decision cost him over $100 million. But the other two, Wozniak and Jobs, they did not agree most of the time, but they learned how to work together, and they both died billionaires.
I'm worried about the time. I mean, I can go on forever. It's such an interesting conversation here, But yeah, how about a wrap up? I mean, we're going to have you back for sure. But how about
I would love to
and...
come back. I'd love to come back. Yeah. But just ask me any question, and I'll just fire away here.
Hey, I'm just worried about the time that we could get cut off here for our recording, okay. And I'd like to wrap it up nicely. But for the community, after you hear this recording, please send us more questions and we will pass it over to Gary to answer. If you want him back, we will bring him back on another topic as well. Hey, tell us a little bit about your podcast and where can people find it?
Hey, it's called Gary's Glorious Golden Nuggets, and you can download it on most podcast applications. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm on Google. I'm just, if you have a phone and you have a podcast application, just type me in, you should be able to find me somewhere.
And you wrote a book about manifestation.
I wrote a book called The Ancients Knew How to Manifest Everything. It's on Amazon. You can get an ebook or you can get it hard printed. It's on there to read or watch. And I will also say I have a Facebook page called Gary's Glorious Golden Nuggets. And every Wednesday, I do a short video sequence that's called Golden Nugget Nation. And you can all get into that and enjoy that. Um, I have a YouTube page. Just type in Gary's Glorious Golden Nuggets and you should actually end up there. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I've got a few playlists. Just get on the playlist and die hard. Now, look, I got to tell you, it has not been easy being a podcaster. I've shared with to Lucy about the fact that I was in an accident a few months ago, and it severely impacted me, and I haven't been able to record. But even still, not having recorded, people are still downloading my podcast around the world.
Nice.
I mean, people in Mongolia are listening to my English language podcast. It's a number 20 in business for Mongolia.
Nice.
You just don't know, folks. So let me tell you what, whatever your dream, go for it. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anybody try to talk you out of it. If you can dream it, conceive it, believe it, you can achieve it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gary, for having you here. It's an honor to have you here and for sharing all this with us. Yeah, we shall say bye and leave your questions below and we will get Gary to answer them if you have any more questions. Okay,
Yes,
bye
please
for
do.
now.
I want to come back. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye for now.